The rain-slicked casket lowered into the earth like a final betrayal, and Benjamin Harper watched his father's body disappear without a single tear from the family gathered around him. "You're no son of mine anymore," his uncle spat, voice slicing through the downpour as the mourners turned away, their umbrellas blooming black against the gray sky. In that moment, soaked and shattered on the muddy Kansas hillside, Benjamin realized love could bury you deeper than any grave. The wind howled across the Flint Hills like a widow's wail, whipping Benjamin's black suit jacket against his ribs as he stood there, fists clenched at his sides. The funeral had been a farce from the start. His father, Tom Harper, the stoic rancher who'd built a life on hard soil and harder silences, gone too soon at 58 from a heart attack that hit like lightning in the barn. Ben had driven through the night from Wichita, where he'd been scraping by as a barista at a hipster coffee joint, to say goodbye. But goodbye turned into exile faster than he could blink. It started in the church basement, over lukewarm coffee and store-bought casseroles. His Aunt Evelyn, with her peroxide curls and Bible clutched like a shield, had cornered him by the folding tables. "We found the letters, Ben. In your room back home. Those filthy things to that boy in college." Her voice dropped to a whisper, but it carried like a gunshot in the hushed room. Ben's stomach plummeted. The letters, passionate, desperate scribbles to his ex, Jake, from 4 years ago, must have been unearthed when his mom cleared out his old desk. He'd meant to burn them. God, he'd meant to. The whispers spread like prairie fire. By the time they filed out to the graveside, his cousins avoided his eyes, and his mother, pale as the lilies on the casket, wouldn't meet his gaze. Then Uncle Ray, Tom's brother and the self-appointed patriarch, grabbed his arm as the first shovelful of dirt hit wood. "Get out. We don't want your kind poisoning this family." The words landed like blows, and Ben shoved him off, stumbling back into the mud. No one moved to help. No one. He walked. Miles, felt like, down the winding county road that snaked away from Harper Ranch, his dress shoes caked in clay, phone dead in his pocket from the storm. Twilight bled into night, and the lights of Eldridge, that godforsaken speck on the map, flickered like distant stars mocking his solitude. A pickup roared past, splashing him with gutter water, but he kept going, numb to the chill seeping into his bones. By the time he reached the edge of town, a neon sign buzzed Motel 6 like a siren's call. He had $40 in his wallet, enough for one night if he skipped dinner. The clerk, a gum-chewing woman with tattoos snaking up her neck, slid him a key without questions. Room 12 smelled of stale smoke and regret, the bed sagging under his weight as he stripped off his ruined clothes. He curled into a ball, the sobs coming in waves that shook the thin walls. Dad was gone. Family was gone. He was 24, gay in a town that still whispered faggot, like it was 1950, and utterly, catastrophically alone. Sleep came in fits, haunted by dreams of his father's calloused hands ruffling his hair, back when Ben was 10 and the world still made sense. Morning light stabbed through the curtains, and he woke to pounding on the door. "Checkouts at 11. Han," the clerk hollered. Ben dragged himself up, splashed water on his face from the leaky faucet, and stared at his reflection. Hollow cheeks, red-rimmed eyes, the ghost of the man he'd hoped to become. He needed a plan. Wichita was 2 hours east, his shitty apartment, his dead-end job, The friends who'd faded after Jake dumped him for a straight-laced accountant. But pride or stupidity or both kept him from calling for a ride. Instead, he slung his damp jacket over his shoulder and hit the street, boots squelching on the sidewalk. Eldridge's main drag was a relic, a diner with checkered floors, a feed store, a bar called the Longhorn that catered to ranch hands nursing grudges with whiskey. The diner it was. He slid into a vinyl booth, ordered black coffee and a side of toast on credit. He'd pay later, somehow, and nursed the mug like it held answers. The place hummed with locals, farmers in flannel, a couple of truckers jawing about gas prices. Ben kept his head down, but eyes flicked his way. Word traveled fast in towns like this. That's when the door chimed, and in walked a man who didn't belong. Tall, broad-shouldered, in a tailored wool coat that screamed city money. He shook rain from his dark hair and scanned the room like he owned it. Mid-30s, maybe, with a jawline sharp enough to cut glass and eyes the color of storm clouds. He carried a leather briefcase, incongruous against the diner's grease-stained counters, and when he spoke to the waitress, low, confident, with a faint East Coast clip, Ben's ears perked up. Large coffee, black, and whatever he's having. The man nodded toward Ben's table, and the waitress blinked, then shrugged and poured. Ben's head snapped up. "Excuse me?" The stranger slid into the booth opposite him, uninvited, setting his briefcase down with a soft thud. Up close, he was even more striking. Faint stubble shadowing his chin, a silver watch glinting on his wrist that probably cost more than Ben's yearly rent. "You look like hell," the man said, not unkindly. "Rough night." Ben bristled, but exhaustion dulled the edge. "You could say that. And you are Michael." Michael Hale. He extended a hand, firm grip, warm despite the chill outside. "I was at the funeral yesterday. Saw the unpleasantness." Heat flooded Ben's face. Of course. The millionaire, wait, was he? The name tugged at a memory. Hale Enterprises, some agribusiness conglomerate that had swallowed half the county's farms. Michael's father had been Tom's old poker buddy, or so the gossip went. "Great. So you came to gawk." Michael's lips quirked, not quite a smile. "Came to offer a ride. And maybe a job, if you're interested. Your dad spoke highly of you, you know. Said you had a head for numbers. Could have run the ranch books better than any of those cousins." Ben snorted, bitter. "Dad barely knew me the last 5 years. And the family made it clear I'm not welcome." Michael leaned in, voice dropping. "Families overrated sometimes. But second chances? Those are rarer than a dry summer here." He slid a business card across the table, embossed gold. Michael Hale, CO, and stood. "Trucks outside. Wichita bound." "Your call." Ben stared at the card, thumb tracing the edges. It was insane. A stranger, offering salvation on a silver platter. But what did he have to lose? He pocketed it, grabbed his jacket, and followed Michael into the drizzle. The truck was a gleaming black Ford F-150, leather seats smelling of new money. As they pulled onto the highway, radio crackling with some old Springsteen tune, Ben felt the first crack in his armor, a sliver of possibility amid the wreckage. They didn't talk much at first. Michael drove with one hand on the wheel, the other drumming idly on the gearshift, eyes fixed on the endless ribbon of asphalt unspooling through cornfields stripped bare by fall. Ben stole glances, noting the way Michael's coat hugged his shoulders, the subtle scent of cologne, sandalwood, and citrus that cut through the cab's recycled air. It stirred something in him, a warmth he hadn't felt since Jake, but he shoved it down. This wasn't a fairy tale, it was survival. "So," Michael said finally, breaking the silence as they passed a rusted silo. "What's your story, Ben Harper?" Beyond the obvious. Ben hesitated, then let it spill. The college days in Lawrence, studying AG Econ until Jake's ghosting gutted him. The move to Wichita, slinging lattes to artists who tipped in compliments. Coming out to his parents last Christmas. The awkward hug from Mom. The stony silence from Dad. He never said it outright, but I knew. Disappointment hangs heavy in a house like that. Michael nodded, jaw tightening. My old man was the same. Railroaded me into the family business after Yale. Said emotions were for poets, not Hales. He glanced over, eyes softening. But Tom's different. He called me last month, asked if I'd look out for you if, well, he knew things were tense. Ben's throat tightened. Why you? Why now? Because sometimes, kid, the universe throws you a bone when you're down in the dirt. Michael's voice held a gravelly edge, like he'd been there himself. By the time they hit Wichita's sprawl, strip malls and smokestacks under a bruised sky, Ben had Michael's number programmed into his resurrected phone, a vague promise of coffee next week hanging between them. Michael dropped him at his apartment complex, a squat brick building off Kellogg with chain-link fences and cars on blocks. Think about the job, he said, handing over $100 bill with a wink. Gas money. Or beer. Your funeral. Ben watched the truck's taillights fade, the bill crisp in his fist. For the first time in 24 hours, he didn't feel invisible. The week blurred into a haze of shifts at Brew Haven, where his boss, a pierced millennial named Tara, covered for his absences with eye rolls and herbal tea recommendations. Ben crashed on his futon, replaying the funeral in nightmares, but Michael's card burned a hole in his wallet. He texted on Thursday, "Coffee?" The reply came instant. Saturday. My treat. 10 a.m. River City Brewing. Saturday dawned crisp, the Arkansas River glinting like fool's gold under a reluctant sun. Ben arrived early, fidgeting in his best jeans and a flannel that hid his nerves. Michael was already there, at a corner table overlooking the water, nursing an espresso in a cashmere sweater that made Ben's thrift store threads feel like rags. "You clean up nice," Michael said, standing to pull out Ben's chair, a gentlemanly move that sent a flutter through Ben's chest. They talked for hours. Michael spun tales of boardrooms in Chicago, hostile takeovers that left egos in the dust. But his laughs came easy, crinkling the corners of his eyes. Ben shared bits of his life, the poetry he scribbled in napkins, dreams of owning a sustainable farm co-op that didn't squeeze workers dry. Naive? Ben asked, half joking. Optimistic, Michael corrected, his foot brushing Ben's under the table. Accidental? Intentional? The touch lingered. Electric. As they walked the riverwalk after, leaves crunching underfoot, Michael stopped by a wrought iron bench. The job's real, Ben. Junior analyst in my KC office. Entry level, but it'd get you on your feet. And away from that ranch rot, Ben's heart hammered. Kansas City, 40 minutes north. A fresh start. But trust didn't come easy after betrayal's fresh sting. What's the catch? Michael's gaze held steady, gray eyes piercing. "No catch. Just let me help." "Your dad would have wanted it." Ben nodded, the words sticking. They parted with a handshake that turned into a half-hug, Michael's hand lingering on his back. That night, alone in his dim apartment, Ben lay awake, the memory of that touch igniting a fire he thought extinguished. Michael Hale wasn't just a lifeline, he was a spark. Weeks turned to months, the job a whirlwind of spreadsheets and site visits to Hale's sprawling operations, wind farms dotting the plains, greenhouses blooming under glass. Ben thrived, his mind sharp on margins and yields, earning nods from execs who mistook his quiet for confidence. Michael mentored from afar, lunches in glass-walled offices where their knees bumped under tables, conversations veering from crop rotations to coming-out war stories. Michael's own history trickled out in fragments. Outed at 16 by a jealous ex, shipped to a reform camp in Utah that left scars deeper than skin. "Dad bought silence with tuition," he said one rainy afternoon, staring out at the Missouri River from his penthouse balcony. They were post-shift drinks, Ben's first invite up to Michael's world, all sleek lines and city views. But money can't buy acceptance. Took me years to stop hating the mirror. Ben reached across the marble counter, fingers grazing Michael's. "You seem pretty whole to me." Michael's laugh was low, vulnerable. "Smoke and mirrors, Harper. But you're real." "That's rare." The air thickened, charged like the storm outside. Ben leaned in, heart thundering, and Michael's hand cupped his jaw, thumb tracing his lip. Their kiss was slow, tentative, a dam breaking after months of restraint. Michael's mouth was warm, tasting of scotch and salt, his body solid as he pulled Ben closer. They stumbled to the couch, clothes shedding like old skins, hands exploring with a hunger born of isolation. It was messy, perfect. Ben arched under Michael's weight, gasps mingling with thunder, the city lights blurring into stars. Afterward, tangled in sheets that smelled of him, Ben whispered, "This feels like a dream." Michael's arm tightened around his waist. "Then let's not wake up." But dreams have edges, sharp as barbed wire. Winter clamped down on Kansas City like a vice, snow blanketing the streets in deceptive white, turning commutes into battles and breaths into ghosts. Ben's life, once adrift, now had anchors. The corner office cubicle with its view of the Liberty Memorial, the routine of client calls and closing deals, and Michael, whose penthouse became a second home, filled with lazy Sundays of takeout Thai and binge-watching old westerns, bodies entwined like they could rewrite the script. It wasn't all bliss. Ben's mom called once, voice brittle over the line. "Ray says you're working for that Hale boy. Be careful, Benjamin. Men like that, they take what they want." He hung up, anger simmering, but Michael's kiss doused it, a balm against the old wounds. They kept things quiet at work. Hale Enterprises was progressive on paper, but whispers could kill careers. Stolen glances in elevators, coded texts, "Miss your smile." Lunch, yet beneath the romance, fissures formed. Michael's ex, Victor, a silver-tongued venture capitalist from New York, started texting, innocent at first, then laced with nostalgia. Ben saw one over Michael's shoulder. "Remember Tuscany? We could have that again." Michael deleted it, chuckling it off as ancient history, but doubt wormed in. Victor was polished, pedigreed. Ben was the farm kid with dirt under his nails. Spring thawed the ice, bringing board meetings and a hail gala at the Nelson Atkins Museum, black ties and champagne flutes amid marble sculptures. Ben stood awkward in his rented tux, Michael's hand light on his elbow as they navigated the crowd. "You belong here," Michael murmured, breath hot against his ear. But eyes followed them. A VP with a raised brow, a donor's wife whispering behind her fan. The night peaked in a coat-room tryst. Michael's tie askew, Ben's back against fur-lined walls, their urgency a rebellion against the facade. "I love you," Ben gasped, the words slipping unbidden as release crashed over them. Michael froze, then pulled him close, foreheads touching. "Love you too, Ben. More than this circus. Should have been enough." But betrayal brews in shadows. It hit on a muggy June evening, Ben arriving early at the penthouse with grocery bags, steaks for the grill, a six-pack of microbrew, plans for a quiet night. The door was ajar, voices drifting from the living room, Michael's low timbre, and another slick, accented faintly with Manhattan. "Victor." Ben froze in the foyer, bags rustling like accusations. Through the crack, he saw them on the leather sectional, Michael in boxers, Victor in slacks, a half-empty scotch bottle on the coffee table. Victor's hand rested on Michael's thigh, proprietary, as he leaned in. "Come on, Mikey. He's sweet, that little farm boy, but he's not us. Not boardrooms and Hamptons. Walk away clean." Michael's face was unreadable, but he didn't pull away. "It's complicated, Vic." Ben's. "He's good for me." Victor's laugh was a blade. "Good? Like a charity case? I saw the emails to your dad. The Harper kid's a liability. Too green. You're slumming. And we both know it." Ben's world tilted. "Emails? To Michael's father?" He backed out silently, bags abandoned on the stoop, fleeing down the hall to the stairwell. His chest heaved, tears blurring the emergency lights. Charity. Liability. The words echoed his uncle's at the grave, a fresh grave on an old wound. He ended up at a dive bar in Westport, nursing a whiskey that burned less than the truth. Texts lit his phone. "Where are you? Dinner's ready." Then, "Ben, talk to me." He powered off, drowning in neon and regret. Morning found him on a Greyhound to Eldridge, the bus jolting over potholes like his heartbeat. He couldn't face Michael, not yet. The ranch loomed on the horizon, a squat farmhouse with peeling paint, the fields greening under hesitant sun. Uncle Ray was on the porch, shotgun propped like a sentinel, but it was his mom who spotted him first, stepping out with flour-dusted apron. "Benjamin," her voice cracked, arms opening hesitant. He collapsed into them, the sobs he'd bottled for months spilling free. They didn't ask questions at first, just fed him biscuits and gravy, the kitchen clock ticking like a confessor. Over coffee, poured out, the job, Michael, the gala, the coat room. Mom's face hardened at the betrayal, but softened at the love. "Oh, honey. Love's a gamble, like planting in drought. Sometimes it withers." Ray grunted from the doorway, arms crossed. "Told you that hail's trouble. City's poisoned him, like it does everyone." But Ben stayed, helping with chores, mending fences, baling hay, letting the rhythm of labor numb the ache. Days blurred into a week, his phone silent after the first barrage of voicemails. Michael's voice raw, pleading. I swear, Vic was nothing. A drunk slip-up. Come back. On the 8th day, a black SUV crunched up the drive, dust swirling like a storm. Michael stepped out, sunglasses hiding his eyes, but his posture screamed defeat. Rumpled shirt, unshaven jaw. Ray met him halfway, words sharp, but Michael raised hands in surrender. Just need to see him. Please. Ben watched from the barn loft, heart warring. Michael looked up, spotting him, and climbed the ladder slow, each rung a question. At the top, he leaned on a beam, voice hoarse. I fucked up. Victor crashed the couch after a fight. Old shit. My dad pressuring me to settle down proper. He twisted words. Ben. Those emails were years ago, before I knew you. You're not a liability. You're everything. Ben's fists clenched, hay prickling his palms. Then why didn't you push him away? Why let him touch you like that? Michael winced, stepping closer. Fear. Of losing you, of this blowing up at work. But that's cowardice talking. I love you, Ben. Raw. Real. Not some Hamptons fantasy. The air hung heavy, birdsong mocking the tension. Ben searched those gray eyes, seeing the boy from the reform camp, the man who'd kissed him like salvation. Prove it, he whispered, voice breaking. Walk away from all of it. For us. Michael nodded, pulling him into a fierce embrace, lips crashing in a kiss tasting of desperation and dawn. They made love in the loft, slow and reclaiming, hayloft shadows dancing as Ben forgave, piece by fractured piece. Summer deepened, their bond tested in fire. Victor didn't fade quietly. Anonymous tips to HR about fraternization forced Michael's hand. He came out publicly, memo to staff, interview with the star, standing tall beside Ben at Pride events, rainbow flags whipping in the wind. The board grumbled, stocks dipped, but Michael held firm. Hale's future is inclusive, he declared, hand in Ben's under the table. Betrayal's echo lingered, though, in late-night doubts. Ben dreamed of the funeral, waking sweat-soaked, Michael's arms a anchor. They talked it through, therapy sessions in a sunny office, walks along the plaza where fountains whispered forgiveness. By fall, the ranch called Ben back, not for exile but healing. He proposed a co-op to Ray, sustainable practices, Hale funding, family buy-in. Ray balked, but Mom's nod swayed him. Michael stood at the fence line during the first meeting, a silent ally, his presence a vow. One crisp October evening, under a harvest moon, they drove to the cemetery. Tom's stone gleamed silver, wildflowers nodding at its base. Ben knelt, Michael's hand on his shoulder. Miss you, Dad. But I'm okay. Better than okay. As they rose, arms linked, the future stretched wide, flawed. Human, theirs. The co-op took root like stubborn prairie grass. Hale's capital irrigating fields that had lain fallow under Ray's stubborn grip. Ben shuttled between KC and Eldridge, blueprints in his briefcase, dirt on his boots, Michael trailing when deals demanded his signature. Their love, once a fragile bloom, hardened into something resilient, late-night drives with classic rock on the stereo, hands intertwined over the console, arguments over takeout that ended in laughter and make-up sex on the kitchen floor. But peace is fleeting in stories like ours. Victor resurfaced like a bad penny, not with texts but lawsuits. Hale Enterprises sued for defamation after Victor's blog post. CEO's closet affair sinks legacy firm. Went viral, twisting their relationship into a scandal of embezzlement and coercion. Reporters camped Michael's building. Mics thrust like spears. Ben's photo splashed across feeds. Captioned, "The ranch boy who broke the empire." Michael shielded him, lawyered up, but the strain showed. Gray hairs threading his temples. Sleep evading those storm cloud eyes. "It's noise," he'd say, pulling Ben close in the king bed. But Ben felt the tremor in his touch, the way Michael's mind wandered mid-conversation. Ben's family fractured anew. Ray, ever the skeptic, blamed city voodoo. That queer money's cursed us. Mom mediated, her faith a quiet bridge. But cousins iced Ben out at the state fair, whispers following him past the livestock barns. Loneliness crept back, a familiar shadow, but Michael was sunlight, cooking breakfast in boxers, planning a getaway to the Smokies, promising, "We'll outlast this storm." The climax brewed in November, snow dusting the Flint Hills like ash from a funeral pyre. Hale's board called an emergency meeting, Victor's allies embedded like ticks. Michael prepped in their penthouse, pacing in pinstripes, Ben ironing his shirt with hands that shook. "What if they oust you?" Ben asked, voice small. "Then I burn it down," Michael growled, but his kiss was tender, a lifeline. Ben drove him to the airport for the Chicago flight O'Hare. Boardroom battlefield. "Call me," Ben said, lingering in the drop-off lane, traffic honking impatience. "Every hour," Michael vowed, stealing one last press of lips. The first call came at noon. "They're circling. Stay off the news." By evening, Ben paced their apartment, TV muted on CNBC's ticker. Hale shares plunge 12% amid leadership crisis. Phone silent. Then, at midnight, a text, "Missed connection. Stuck in O'Hare hell. Love you." Relief flooded, but dawn brought horror. Ben's phone exploded. Missed calls from Mom, Tara, unknown numbers. He clicked a link. Hale CEO resigns in gay sex scandal. Ex-partner alleges blackmail. Victor's face smirked from the screen. Michael's statement a bloodless press release. Effective immediately, I stepped down to pursue personal matters. Ben's knees buckled. Resigns? The word echoed betrayal, deeper than Victor's hand on thigh. He dialed. Voicemail. Raced to the airport anyway, weaving through rush-hour snarl. Heart a war drum. Michael emerged from baggage claim, suitcase dragging, face ashen. "Ben, you quit." Ben's voice cracked, fists balled. Travelers stared, but fuck them. Without a word, after everything, Michael's eyes darted, then met his raw, ruined. It was the only way. They threatened to bury you, then leak your past, the funeral shit, paint you as the gold digger who seduced the boss. I couldn't let them touch you. Liar. The word slashed, Ben stepping back as if burned. You chose the easy out. Again. Like with Victor, Michael reached, desperate. No. This is love, sacrificing the empire for us. I sold my stake, cashed out clean. We can start over. Anywhere. Ben laughed. Hollow. Start over? You think money fixes this? I loved you, Michael. The man, not the millionaire. But you're still running from your dad. The board. Now me. Security hovered. But Michael ignored them. voice breaking. Don't do this. Please. Ben turned, tears hot. Goodbye, Michael. He drove blind, sobs racking the wheel, back to Eldridge where the co-op waited. Small victories in soil turned, Ray's grudging respect. Mom enveloped him at the door. No questions, just stew simmering on the stove. Days bled into weeks, Ben pouring into the land. Hybrid seeds, solar pumps, workers from town who didn't pry. Pride swelled as the first harvest yielded. Neighbors toasting at the barn raising. Ben's name on lips not in scorn. Christmas came bitter, snow blanketing the grave. Ben laid poinsettias, whispering to Tom Stone. He broke me, Dad. But I'm standing. Michael's gifts arrived, and signed. Extravagant. A leather-bound journal. A watch engraved "Our dawn awaits." Ben donated them to the church drive. The act of severance. Spring greened the fields. The co-op thriving. Hale's ghost fading. Ben dated casually. A vet from Lawrence. Sweet but sparkless. Learning solitude's quiet strength. Then, June heat wave. A letter in the mailbox. Michael's handwriting. Postmarked Seattle. Ben, I write from a fairy deck. Puget Sound mist cloaking the Olympics like regrets. The board bought me out cheap. Victor got his pound of flesh. But karma's a slow blade. He's bankrupt now. Exposed in court. I deserved the fall. You deserved better. You taught me love isn't possession. It's release. The ranch photos you sent, your smile amid the wheat, they're my anchor. If forgiveness comes, know I'm here. If not, know you're my dawn. Always, Michael. Ben folded it, heart twisting. Release. He drove to the cemetery at dusk. The sun a bruise on the horizon. Kneeling, he traced Dad's name, then scattered wildflower seeds, resilient, untamed. That night, he texted, seeds planted. Growth takes time. The reply, I'll wait. Summer deepened. Their correspondence a tentative bridge. Letters, not calls, words measured like rain. Michael built a life in the PNW, consulting for eco-firms, volunteering at youth centers for queer kids. His voice steady in recordings Ben played on loop. Fall harvest brought the co-op's first profit share. Ray clapping Ben's back at the potluck. Proud of you, boy. Tom's smiling. Ben nodded, throat tight, eyes on the horizon where a black SUV idled at the gate. Michael stepped out, leaner, wind-tousled, eyes hopeful. Heard about the yield. Came to see. Ben approached slow, the air electric. You look good. Free. Miss you. Simple. Raw. Ben's hand found his, fingers lacing. Missed this. They walked the fields, talking harvests and heartaches, the sun dipping low. No grand gestures, just two men, scarred and whole, under Kansas sky vast as forgiveness. The reconciliation wasn't fireworks. It was embers, glowing steady through the chill of doubt. Michael rented a cabin on the ranch's edge, a modest A-frame with a wood stove and views of the creek, giving space for Ben to breathe, to test the waters without drowning. They'd meet at dawn for coffee on the porch, mugs steaming as deer grazed the mist-shrouded meadow, conversations meandering from crop yields to the ghosts they'd buried. Michael dove into the co-op hands-on, sleeves rolled, teaching data analytics to the crew, his city polish cracking under calluses. Ray watched wary at first, shotgun swapped for a beer at Friday barbecues, thawing when Michael fixed the irrigation pump single-handed, grease streaking his forearms like war paint. "Ain't half bad," Ray muttered once, and Ben hid his grin behind a rib bone. Nights were theirs, stolen in the cabin, bodies rediscovering rhythms lost to betrayal's chill. Michael's touch was reverent now, mapping Ben's freckles like constellations, whispers of sorry woven into gasps. "I was blind," he'd say, lips on Ben's collarbone. "You woke me." Ben forgave in layers. Therapy unpacking the funeral's shrapnel, Michael's presence a poultice. They hiked the Flint Hills trails, Ben pointing out milkweed blooms, Michael sharing PNW lore, rainforests that wept silver, orcas breaching like myths. Dreams surfaced. Ben's co-op expanding to a network, Michael's consulting firm green-focused, intertwined but independent. But conflict simmers eternal. Victor's shadow lingered in legal fees draining Michael's nest egg, forcing sales of his Chicago condo, the watch collection Ben had admired. Downsizing, Michael joked over diner pie, but Ben saw the strain, late nights poring over ledgers, the way his laugh faltered at millionaire jabs from locals. Worse, Ben's past clawed back. Jake, the college ex who'd ghosted, resurfaced via Facebook. "Heard you're big time now. Coffee? For old times." Ben deleted, but the worm of inadequacy twisted. Michael sensed it, pulling him aside after a co-op meeting. "Talk to me." "It's stupid," Ben admitted, kicking gravel. "Jake was my first everything. Clean slate. Your chapters." Michael cupped his face, thumbs brushing tears. "And you're the whole damn book, Ben." Epilogue included. Summer scorched the plains, testing resolve. A drought cracked the earth. Co-op yields halved. Ray raging at fancy ideas. Fingers pointed at Ben, the city boy meddling. At a tense town hall in the feed store, voices rose. Hale's money's jinxed us. Cousin spat, echoing uncle's funeral venom. Ben stood, voice steady. "This isn't curse, it's change. We adapt or wither." Michael backed him from the shadows. Quiet strength, and the room quieted, grudging claps scattering like rain. Climax crested in August, heat lightning forking the sky. Victor, unhinged by losses, drove to Eldridge, drunk, desperate, crashing the ranch gate in a rented Beamer, tires spinning mud. "Hale!" he bellowed, staggering out with a bottle, eyes wild. "You ruined me." Ray met him with the shotgun, but Ben pushed forward, Michael at his flank. "Leave, Victor." "It's over." Victor lunged, bottle shattering on the porch rail, shards glinting like accusations. "You think you're better? Farm trash fucking the boss? Pathetic." Michael stepped between, voice steel. "Enough. I ended us years ago because you were poison." Ben's the antidote. Fists flew, Victor's wild swing glancing Michael's jaw, Ben tackling him to the dirt, wrestling until Ray's "Git!" boomed and sirens wailed. Cops hauled Victor away, slurring curses, his empire's remnants crumbling under DUIs and debts. In the aftermath, bruised and bandaged on the kitchen table, Michael bled a cut above his eye, Ben dabbing peroxide with trembling hands. "You didn't have to shield me," Ben whispered. Michael winced, then smiled. "Always will." Mom brewed tea. Ray poured whiskey, truce in the steam. "Reckon your family now." "Hale," Ray grumbled, clapping Michael's shoulder. Fall painted the hills gold, harvest lean but triumphant. Ben and Michael stood at the grave, hands clasped, sharing stories of Tom poker bluffs, fishing lies. "He'd like you now," Ben said. "Steady hand," Michael squeezed. "Steady because of you." Thanksgiving gathered them all. Co-op hands, cousins thawing over turkey, laughter echoing the long table. Ben carved, Michael passed potatoes, their eyes meeting in quiet vow. Winter whispered promises. On New Year's, under stars sharp as diamonds, Michael knelt in the cabin snow, ring glinting, a simple band, gold like wheat. "Marry me, Ben." "Not for show. For us." Tears froze on Ben's lashes. "Yes. God, yes." The wedding was spring simple. Barn venue, wildflowers in mason jars, Ray walking Ben down the aisle, Mom dabbing eyes. Vows exchanged with river wind as witness. In drought and storm, "I choose you." Honeymoon in the Smokies, cabins and creeks, bodies lazy in hammocks, futures mapped on napkins. Co-op expansions, a kid maybe, adopted, theirs. Years folded like accordions. The co-op bloomed into a Midwest model, Michael's firm consulting nationwide. They built a home on the ranch edge, solar-powered, porch swing creaking lullabies. Ben's poetry published. Slim volume titled Dawn's Yield. Dedicated to M. My unexpected. Betrayals faded to footnotes. Love the binding thread. 50. Graying together, they'd revisit the grave. Tom's stone mossy, sharing grandkids' tales. "We made it," Ben would say, Michael's arm warm around him. Humanity's grace. Not perfection, but persistence. In America's heartland, two men proved love outlasts the longest winter. Decades wove their tapestry, threads of joy and grit interlacing like roots in rich soil. Benjamin and Michael's life became legend in Eldridge, the ranch boys who tamed the tycoon, turning fields fallow into futures fertile. The co-op swelled to encompass 3 counties, solar panels glinting like promises across the horizon, workers co-owned shares buying homes, educations, dreams deferred no longer. Ben, ever the visionary, penned op-eds for the Times on sustainable AG, his words a bridge from heartland to heartland, while Michael's firm greened corporations coast to coast, boardrooms bending to ethics over excess. Their home, that A-frame evolved into a sprawling timber frame with a library for Ben's verses and a workshop for Michael's tinkering, wind turbine prototypes whirring like whispers of youth. Mornings started with coffee on the deck, watching hawks wheel over the creek, hands brushing in ritual affection. "Still my dawn," Michael would murmur, kissing Ben's temple, silver hair catching the light. Kids came late, adopted at 40. First, little Ellie, a firecracker from KC foster care with curls like wild vines and questions sharper than shears. "Why do plants need sun, Papa Ben?" she'd ask, tugging his overalls during planting season. Then Theo, quiet as mist, sketching orcus in margins, Michael's P&W tales fueling his artist's soul. Family dinners devolved into chaos, Ellie's debates on climate justice, Theo's dry wit slicing through like a scythe, but Ben and Michael presided with glances that said we built this. Conflict never fully fled. It evolved. Ray's health faltered, heart like Tom's, stubborn and sudden, forcing Ben to mediate as Uncle's pride clashed with care needs. "Ain't leavin' my land to queers," Ray growled once, post-stroke slur thickening his tongue. Michael, ever patient, wheeled him to fields blooming under co-op care. Look, Ray. Your legacy's thriving. Tears tracked the old man's cheeks. A nod the closest to apology. Mom passed gently at 80, quilt in her lap. Ben at her side reciting psalms twisted queer. Love is patient, fierce, unyielding. Her will left Ben the family Bible. Margins annotated with her quiet affirmations. My boy, always. Ellie came out at 16, dating a non-binary artist from Lawrence. The announcement over pancakes met with Michael's proud of you, kiddo, and Ben's hug fierce as harvest moons. Theo navigated his own storms. Anxiety's grip loosening in therapy circles Michael funded for rural youth. Finding solace in a boyfriend from Seattle. Visits bridging coasts. Betrayal's final echo came unexpected. A letter from Victor, prison-bound for fraud. Yellowed envelope postmarked Leavenworth. Hail, Harper, karma's circle. But envy lingers. You won. Michael burned it in the fire pit, ashes scattering on wind. Past's ash, he said, pulling Ben close. We're the flame, climax revisited in subtler guises. A gale ripping roofs in 48. Co-op scrambling aid. Ellie's college protests drawing national ire. Ben testifying in D.C. for queer rights. Through each, their bond anchored. Michael's hand in Ben's at rallies. Ben's voice steadying Michael's post-nightmare tremors from old camp shadows. 60. They traveled. Amtrak coils through canyons. Ellie's wedding in the Smokies echoing their own. Grandkids toddled. Lila with Theo's sketches. Jasper chasing Ellie's fire. Holidays swelled the table. Ray's old chair now Jasper's booster. Stories looping like seasons. 70 brought aches. Ben's knees from fields. Michael's back from board battles. But mornings still dawned shared. Bodies spooned against chill. Whispers trading dreams deferred no more. They mentored. Co-op apprentices wide-eyed at Ben's tales. Queer youth at Michael's retreats hearing it gets better because we make it. The end crept soft, as human ends do. Michael first. The 78. Pneumonia swift after a hike. Last words. Raspy in the hospital hush. My dawn. Keep shining. Ben held him, kissing knuckles scarred from life's labors. The room filled with family. Ellie's hand on his shoulder. Theo's sketches framing the bed. Grief hollowed Ben. Nights echoing empty. But dawn pulled him to the porch. Coffee bitter without Michael's quip. He tended the grave. Tom's beside Evelyn's. Now Michael's plot waiting, wildflowers seeding eternal. Months later, under harvest moon, Ben felt the pull. Heart faltering like Tom's. He gathered kin, tell stories. Live loud, in the cabin, penning final verses. Love's yield. Not gold, but growth. He slipped away peaceful. Ellie's lullaby fading. Eldridge mourned, then celebrated. Co-op renamed Harper Hale Commons. Plaque reading roots entwined. Grandkids roamed fields, learning legacies. Ben's optimism, Michael's resolve. In that humanistic close, no tidy bows. Life's messy. Love's fractured then forged. But in America's vast breadbasket, two men proved. From cast out dawn, empires of the heart endure. Cast out, yes, but never alone. Dawn always breaks.